So I was looking for that Taylor Swift yarn on Thursday. I got it. And then I was sitting around and I saw a bag on the counter. And I was like, don't need a bag, kind of want the bag. The fabric is really cool, the style is really cool, but I'm gonna hold off. And if the bag is still here on Saturday, I am getting the bag. So here's the bag. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 206 of the Love and Stitches podcast. This time it's actually episode 206. Last week I said it was, and it was really episode 205. So for all this time, episode 206. I am back at my parents' house in Nashville, Tennessee. I try to do a little bit with the background because there is like a lot happening here with like hooks and things. I mean, it just looks kind of sad and boring. And when I tried to hang things up here, it looked even weirder. So blank wall we get. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone in the US. I hope you're eating lots of food today and ignoring all of your problematic relatives, getting lots of knitting and crochet time in, and hopefully just getting a little bit of a break this weekend. We're certainly going to be doing that. We're going to have Thanksgiving with my brother and his wife, her parents, my parents, and one of my other siblings. One of them can't make it. So I am looking forward to all of the food on Thanksgiving. I have quite a lot of projects to talk about today. I've been really in a finishing mode and I've been working on small projects, trying to get them wrapped up, casting on other small projects for holiday gifts and finishing those up. So I'm really excited to share all of my projects with you today. I have some new things to show you. So one in particular I think is sort of interesting. So I'm excited to see what you think. We're going to be here in Tennessee for the next 2 weeks, I believe. Is that right? Yeah. So this week and then next week's podcast will be here in Tennessee, which is why I'm probably not going to bother too much with changing anything here in my background. Oh, before I got started today, I spent about 20 minutes looking for my lighting kit, which is something I need in this house, especially because the sun is setting super, super early. And I looked in every room in my parents' house. There's lots of rooms. And I found it in the container that it's supposed to be in, which I just didn't realize we'd actually brought here with us to Tennessee. Anyway, you didn't need to know all of that. Let's get into the projects because I have a lot to share today. Number one, I have a finished object to show you. I think I started and finished this since the last episode, but this is a classic bottle cozy. So last week I made a classic can cozy. Now I have completed the classic bottle cozy. These are a set for my brother. Where did the can cozy go? I got a can and a bottle just for this. I am actually finding things in this pattern. This is my own pattern. So this is the classic can cozy that fits on a can. Great for beer, great for like sparkling water, things like that. That was finished last week. And then out of the same yarn, the bottle cozy, which is really great for glass bottles. So beer or anything else that comes like that. When I tried to put this on, it was extremely difficult to get on. Now, because of the way a bottle is shaped and it kind of, tapers off here at the top, this ring right here with the I-cord and everything has always been a little bit difficult to put on the bottle, but it was almost impossible to get on this one. This is actually a cream soda, so I don't know if it's a slightly like wider than a beer bottle. I don't have any beer bottles here to test it with, so I need to kind of figure that out. But I might have to take back this and do something different. Like, I don't know, it doesn't seem tight necessarily up here, but it was really hard to get on. Whenever you are making the can cozies or bottle cozies or anything like that, I always recommend this, and I have it in the pattern. Put the cozy on before opening it because they're not like normal cozies. They do have a bit more like cling to them, so it's pretty hard to put them on once you've already opened up your bottle or can. But I love these, and I think my brother's gonna like it. It's got on the bottom here, you start at the bottom, and this acts as a coaster, which is amazing. And then the cozy just keeps, Honestly, it's not about keeping the beer cold. These cozies are not going to do that. It's more about condensation, a comfortable grip. You don't have to have the cold against your hand, and it's really cute. And you can tell whose drink is whose when you have your own cozy. So I love these for presents, but also for using up leftovers. And this ball of yarn has been so many things. So this yarn, I don't believe I have the label with me. I have some organizing to do of my projects. Nope. I don't see any labels in here, but this yarn is from Forbidden Fiber Co. It is called Tomb Sweet Tomb, and it's made a pair of socks for my mother-in-law. I need to block those. I'm just keeping it all in here. And then it made this can cozy, this bottle cozy, and now I have about this much left. I actually have a little bit more. For some reason, when I was winding it, I didn't wind the whole skein up. I don't remember what happened, but I have probably like another 20-gram hank. So one skein of fingering weight yarn can go really, really far, but I'm pleased with having used up so much of this. Now, I haven't started this project yet, but I am planning to make another can and bottle koozie, koozie for my this brother's girlfriend. And I love making stuff for my brother Rains because he's always been one who really appreciates my handmade gifts. My whole family appreciates the handmade gifts, but Rains shows a particular interest in that he will like ask me for specific stuff. So in years past, he's found something online, maybe it's on Pinterest, maybe it's on Instagram, and he will send it to me, and usually he has found the pattern. Like he knows enough about knitting and crochet to have looked for a pattern. He knows enough to ask me like months in advance, not like the week before Christmas or something, and expect it to be made. And then he really appreciates the items. I think he uses them. It doesn't really matter. I have a lot of fun making them for him just because he's so excited about the process. So the can cozy started because I was using my can cozy and he was like, wow, that's really cool. Would love one for Christmas. And then we chatted about the yarn. I asked him, would he want a can or a bottle cozy or both? And he said both would be really cool. And I sent him a picture after I finished the can one and asked him, just, you know, making sure he liked the colors, and he was like, yes, I love it. So then I thought, well, these are really fun and fast to make. Why don't I make his girlfriend some cozies too? So at first I was thinking maybe I would just use the same colors and I would change the bind off at the top. Instead of doing it in the black contrast yarn, I would just bind off with this color. That way they would be a similar set, but you could tell them apart. And I think that would be a fun idea for a gift for someone as well. Like make them two cozies that are identical except for the bind off. So that way, you know, even if they're both their cozies, if somebody's at their house, they're using one cozy, the other person's using one, they can tell them apart, tell like their drinks apart really easily. But he said that his girlfriend would actually like some different colors. I'm like, cool, I can, you know, in my head, I was like, I'll go look through my scraps and just kind of find colors that she likes. Cause he's like, oh, she really likes pink. So I'm like, well, that's easy because obviously I love pink. But then, and this is another reason why I love Rains, because he gets very into it. It's not like he's, you know, some people, when they're asking you to make them something, you're like, you're asking for too much. Like, I don't really want to make it for you in the first place. But in Rains' case, it's like, he's like on the ride with you with the vision, and he's excited about it. And so like, you want to make him happy, if that makes sense. Like it's a joy, not a chore. So he's like, ooh, you know, it'd be so cool. She actually, let me get my phone, because the way he said it was just so sweet, that I couldn't say no to him. And it's like he was picking out something for his girlfriend, not even for himself. Hold on, let me find it. Okay, so I said, I was also thinking I'd make a set for girlfriend. Do you think she'd like the same colors so you can match or something different? And he was like, oh, she really likes pink, but if you want to get really creative, you could blend pink and blue. So I thought that was really sweet, because I don't know what he really meant by blend. I didn't know if he meant like, you know, use blue, you know, pink here and then blue for the stripes or something. I don't know what he meant by pink and blue, or if he thought that I could like make the yarn myself. I don't really know. But then he said, she really likes pink and blue, like the colors from the Taylor Swift Lover album color. That would be cool. That's her favorite. And then he sent me a picture of the album cover. So once he said that, I couldn't get it out of my head to actually find specifically colors that looked like that. So here's the album cover so you can see what the Lover album cover looks like. It's a mostly pink with a little bit of yellow on the outside, kind of like I think it's clouds, like sunsetty, and then really bright sky blue. So when I went to Bliss Yarns this week, I was looking for colors just like this, and I found those colors in solids. And putting the two of them together, the pink and the blue, I just didn't really care for it because it kind of looked more like something that you would put for like a baby blanket. Like it didn't seem very adult, and it didn't really seem to capture like the nuance of the cover with the different shades and the yellow and everything like that. So then I found some yarn that I thought would look really good, but I was like, is it silly that I'm buying two totally fresh skeins of yarn for a cozy that doesn't take that much yarn? I'm just gonna make her the can in the bottle. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, how much would you spend on a gift for another adult? You know, it just depends on your budget, of course, or how close you are to that person, but it wouldn't be out of the question for me to spend 2 skeins worth of money, hand-dyed skeins worth of money on a gift for somebody. So I was like, this is silly. Why am I hemming and hawing about cracking into 2 fresh skeins? And the skeins I ended up getting are Tennessee yarn. So technically, I mean, I can do whatever I want with my crochet blanket, but technically they would make great candidates for my crochet blanket because they are Tennessee yarns in a Tennessee store. So here is what I got, and I'm gonna show them to you, and then maybe we can put the album cover up next to it. So I got this pink, which as you can see has this like golden yellow running throughout it, which I think is so perfect for the album cover. And then I got the really nice blue. It actually has some purple. I chose a skein that had less purple in it. There was others that had a lot more, so I could kind of, you know, pick which part. So I'm planning to do this pink because she's a fan of pink, the pink and the yellow for the main part of the cozy, and then the blue as the stripes. So what do you think? Can't put the album cover up here. Did I nail it? I feel like it's pretty good. And because it's not solids, it doesn't have that, to me, I'll have to see how they knit up. It doesn't have like baby shower, like baby rattle thing kind of vibe. So I was really pleased with myself when I found these. And also in daylight and better light, they are not going to be quite as warm as they're probably coming off on the screen in this room today. So I was really pleased with myself, and sorry. And I can't wait to get started on these for my brother's girlfriend. I have a second finished object this week, which brings me up to 4 in the last 2 weeks. I'm counting the cozies each as their own finished objects since they're different patterns. I finished a pair of socks last week, and then I finished Kent's Musselburgh hat. I haven't blocked a single project since we've been back in Nashville, so I have actually I haven't blocked a single project since we went on the road in August. I haven't finished that many things until recently, so that's okay, but I do need to do some blocking. So this is Kent's Musselburgh. I left in my stitch marker because I am proud of the progress that I made over the last week from here all the way through to the crown. So the Musselburgh hat is a pattern by Isolde Teague, and it is knit in this really funny shape like this. I used a self-striping yarn from Night Owl Fibers called Wicked Beetlejuice, and it did an interesting stripe here with the number of stitches in the Musselburgh hat. I can't say it's my favorite the way that it's striped, but also it's not meant to stripe in a hat, it's meant to stripe in socks. So the colorway is very cool and looks just like that, and in socks it would be looking more like that. I still have a decent chunk left over, probably not enough for not enough for a pair of socks, certainly, but I could do, if Kent wanted one, a cozy for him, can cozy, and that would look really, really cool. That has about the same number of stitches as a sock, so it's great for self-striping yarn. Anyway, let's see, where was I? I had about 3 inches left of the body and another crown to complete. I'm going to take this pumpkin pie off now because it's so cute and I have another few days to use it before it's time for everything Christmas. Not blocked yet, but this hat will be roughly, I would say, 13 inches from the end of one crown to the beginning of the next. That is because Kent does not like his hats to, or at least this particular one, he didn't want it to fold up like a brim or fold up at all. And he also doesn't like it slouchy. So I do have a picture of Kent wearing his hat right here. And on him, it looks a lot better. On me, it's a little bit too big. Like I actually have slouch because my head is a lot smaller than his, but it turned out really great. So I didn't get that done for him in October like I had hoped, but it is done now and I'm glad to have it off my list. The only other thing of interest about this hat this week is that it was something that I was bringing around with me everywhere in the past couple of weeks because I wanted to get it done. So I was taking it I was putting it inside the hat when I was going to hockey games and football games. So it was like in and out of the hat. I was doing all kinds of stuff and the yarn got it got really messy. It wasn't extremely tangled. It was just really, really messy. And I was just ignoring it and I kept stuffing it back into the yarn cozy and stuffing it back in there. And what had happened was I think it happened when I was winding it. Did I wind this one? It doesn't matter. I think it happened when it was wound. I don't remember if I wound it or not. But a loop of yarn will get stuck on the opposite side of the cake from where I'm pulling from. So do I have a cake? Yeah, I think I have a cake of yarn right here. Let me ask you if this has happened to you before. Most of the time when I have my yarn in a yarn cozy like this, it's not a problem. But this one I was stuffing it into stuff and moving it around and it was just having an issue. But this is what happened. I'm pulling from the center, right? And something will have happened when it was wound where the yarn gets caught here on the opposite side of where I'm pulling it out. And if you take the time to find this issue, like if you look on the opposite side of your yarn, take a moment to untangle it, it will then pull nicely back through the center again. But I didn't do that with this one, so that's why it kept getting messier and messier, and then I just kept stuffing it back in, and I was like, I'll deal with it later, I'll deal with it later. And finally, I got to the point where I was like, I have to deal with this right now. It is such a mess, so I wound it back up by hand, and it looks so much better, and finished the hat that way, and it was much nicer and much faster to work with when I wasn't having to fuss with the yarn every single moment. Anything else of note happened with this hat? I made my notes, a few hours ago. So, no, I think that's it for it. So another Musselburgh hat off the needles. This is Musselburgh number 8, maybe? 8 or 9, I think. So it never stops being a great hat. I know we're getting close to the holidays already, but this one is another one that's a great gift. And if you're looking for ways to modify your Musselburgh or you want to make yourself another one but slightly different, take a look through my project pages, or I did do a video where I talked about all of my different Musselburghs because no two have been the same, and you can kind of play around with different ways to make them. This will be a quick one here because I have only added one hexie to my Hexie Blanket this week. So this pattern is the Summer Fade Hexie Blanket by Mallory Krull with modifications, which are all on my project page, but I have been making this blanket for the past couple of months, and a few weeks ago I caught up on all the yarn that I had purchased. So every time I'm going to a yarn store as we're traveling, maybe not every yarn store, but every state, I'm trying to purchase a skein of yarn that is locally dyed or tied to the store in some way, or in some way local. Basically, I want to have yarn dyed from every single state in this blanket. At first, I was a little more rigid about it, and I was getting one skein of yarn or maybe 2 skeins of yarn, and I was trying to, I don't know, I was just a little more rigid about it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to get yarn from like if it's not from this state, I won't get it. But then I was coming across yarns that were dyed for the store, but out of state, but like close by. Anyway, I've just decided that I'm going to just add yarns in as I travel. Oh, I know what it was. When I was going to shows, I would be in Dallas, for example, but there would be yarn dyers from all over. And so they may be out of state, and I'm still putting those into my blanket. So for every single one of these, I have been putting on my Ravelry page, which I need to pull up because I forgot to bring the yarn into here. So I need to see what this one is. But for every single one, I'm putting a picture of just that hexagon with the dyer and the colorway name so that everything is just recorded and easy info to find. So I only had one more hexie or one more skein of yarn to add in, but I needed to wind it up. So I waited from when we were traveling, like when I got it, to add it in here. So this yarn is from Ohio. It is an Ohio dyer. Ohioan? I don't know how to say, I don't know what they call themselves. But this was a gift from my friend Kristen. We went to breakfast together and she gifted this to me, but it is an Ohio dyer. It is Destination Yarn, and the colorway name is Little Miami River, which is a river in Ohio, which makes it even cooler because the name has to do with the state that it's from, which I love. I guess I'm gonna take my pumpkin marker off of here, and I'll have to find, I have a whole bunch of markers that I need to open up from Simply Serving that are Christmas markers, so I'm probably going to be distributing those among my projects here in a couple days after Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'll add a new one to it then. But this blanket is all caught up. The only things that might come into the blanket over the next week, I kind of doubt it, but if I do get these two yarns wound up and get started on my, I guess I don't have to get started on the cozy first because I'm gonna have plenty for it. I could add them into the blanket, but these yarns are both from Bliss Yarns here in Brentwood, Tennessee, and they are Miss Babs yarn, which is a Tennessee dyer. She's in East Tennessee. So the colorway names, let's see. This is Defender of the Snacks with an X. I don't know what that means. It's a repeatable color though, so that's one you can probably purchase online. And this one is called Tropical Sunset, also repeatable. So not Tennessee colorways, but that's okay. We were going for T-Swift vibes here. So maybe I will, if I'm feeling like crochet, maybe I'll get those wound up and put them into my blanket. But other than that, this guy is just relaxing in here, which is really, really nice. Something that I am thinking about over this next week is which projects I'm going to leave behind and leave snoozing, and which projects are going to be coming with me in the van. And for sure, this travel blanket is going to be coming with me, and you can see that already takes up a lot of space. As it gets bigger, it's going to take up even more space. I think I've sorted out how to keep the extra yarn down to a minimum now, because what I have been doing, or what I started doing, and what's been working really well, is every time I have 6 skeins. So I buy a skein of yarn, I use up like 16 grams for the blanket, and so I have a ton of yarn left over, basically a full cake. I put it into a gallon-sized Ziploc bag. The gallon-sized Ziploc bag can handle 6 of those leftover skeins or cakes, which also fits perfectly into my 10 by 13 poly mailer. So basically every time I finish 6 hexagons and I have 6 leftovers, I can put it into a poly mailer and send it back home here to Tennessee. I have 6 or 7. I guess I have 6. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because I'm at like 40 something hexies, but some of them were minis. I think I have 6 of those poly mailers here that I need to open and do something with to store that leftover yarn. One day I'm going to get to it and maybe make something else, or maybe divide those yarns up and do some kind of very cool like giveaway or something. But that's to be decided and to be determined later. I'm not going to worry about that right now. But thinking about what's going to go in the van, and this has to take priority. I have a goal to fit every like working project into the overhead cubby that I already have. And then my advents will be a totally separate thing. If you want to see how I manage that, stay tuned for Vlogmas. I have started 2 new socks this week. One is the second sock of a pair, and the other one is a brand new one. So I think we'll start, actually I want to start with my bag because I got a cool new bag when I was at Bliss. When I was there, I went twice this past week. I went for knit night and then I went again just on Saturday morning to knit and hang out. So I was looking for that Taylor Swift yarn on Thursday. I got it, and then I was sitting around and I saw a bag on the counter and I was like, don't need a bag, kind of want the bag. The fabric is really cool, the style is really cool, but I'm gonna hold off. And if the bag is still here on Saturday, I am getting the bag. So here's the bag. I absolutely love it. It's a totally different style than I've ever had before. It is from Erin Lane Bags, who is a Tennessee maker, and I have loved Lindsay's stuff forever and ever. I did not get one of her bags at DFW Fiberfest like I normally do every single year. Sounds like I'm justifying this purchase. I just liked it and wanted to get it. I love that it is like a really cute and whimsical fabric from far away. You can see that it's dinosaurs. I've always liked dinosaurs and rainbows. But then once you really start to look at it, you can see that it's actually Christmassy, and the dinosaurs have trees and presents and like little hats on and different things. So that's really cute. Like this dinosaur has on a knitted cap. Very, very cute. Now the other cool thing about this bag, it's nice and tall, right? It's like skinny and tall, has a flat bottom. But the coolest part is when you don't have 2 projects in it, like I do right now, you can do this. Bop. And it comes down and it is like a little nice bucket to keep your yarn in and knit out of. It's super convenient. But then it gets nice and tall again so you can actually fit your project in there with it. I just thought that was super clever. So let me show you the socks that are the second of the pair first. So back in, I think September, I knit the first of these socks. And now I have cast on, oops, the second one. I started doing this thing, trying it out, where I weave in my end pretty soon after I start something. I really like this with socks or other things that are small because with socks, I know that there's a less of a chance that I need to rip back and like I need that end free. Whereas with like other projects like sweaters and things, I'm always, needing to adjust things later on. With socks, I've pretty much got it down how I want to do things. And so I can weave in the end and not have that worry of like, oh, what if I need to rip the project back or anything. So I like weaving it in and I don't have to deal with it, but then I forget where my beginning of round or where, like which side is the first side. And so that's where the markers come into play. And I've actually already picked out this Cheez-It marker that is going to go on here. It's like actually the size of a Cheez-It too. Like look how big it is. Literally looks like a Cheez-It. So I'm probably going to put that on there now that I am showing it on the podcast and need to mark it. Although hopefully this is done by next week because it is the second sock of a pair. It's a project that's been lingering that I want to get finished up by the end of November. So I am trying to do 1 inch each day, about 1 inch. That's not true, not 1 inch. 20 rounds each day, which is more like 2 inches. So yesterday I did 20 rounds for the cuff. And this morning I did about 10 rounds here while I was eating breakfast and reading. So I have 10 more rounds to do later today, probably while I'm watching our video that's going out tomorrow. And then this yarn is from Leading Men Fiber Arts. It was our collaboration colorway called Knitty Natty. So there was some that came out like this. This is one of the original skeins like that we dyed while we were there at the store, at the studio. And then some that came out like really pink, which is also super cool. I got to see Jessica, who works at Bliss Yarns on the weekends. She was making a Musselburgh hat with the pinker version of this yarn. And then they started dyeing it more like this again. So you might have the pink version or this version. They're both really, really cool. So those were started. I actually started those because the first socks that I started, I was having a little bit of trouble with, and I wanted something to bring to the movies. And so I was like, why don't I go ahead and start the simple sock that I know is going to be easy. Let me get it through the cuff. Let me get it to the leg so that I can just do stockinette in the theater. But then I figured out this other sock. So here is the second sock that I have started. Actually, I'll show you the yarn first because I've never done any socks like this before in two ways. One, this yarn is a gradient, which is very, very cool. The other thing that's cool about this yarn is it is 100% superwash merino. So this yarn is from Artfully Twisted Yarns, which is also by Red Hill Fiber, which is a place we went to in Indiana when we went on the yarn crawl there. 100% superwash merino, and this colorway is called Go Ducks for the Oregon Ducks, which now look at it again. You can definitely tell the green and the yellow and even the gray, very much University of Oregon colors. So I wanted to make this yarn into a pair of socks for my mother-in-law for Christmas because she's an Oregon fan. She loves hand knitted socks. I haven't made her hand knitted socks in forever. Her birthday is in December, Christmas is in December, and we're going to see her next. So I was like, okay, I finished the one pair of socks for her wherever they went out of this yarn I made for her. And I'm going to give those to her probably right. Oh my gosh, why is my chair? My chair is just like slowly turning me away because I decided to sit crisscross. Oh, hold on. I'll probably give her those. Now I'm going the other way. When we first get there, since her birthday is in early December, and then I will probably save these for actual Christmas. But man, I really like working with just the 100% superwash merino. It has just a different feel to it, and the stitch definition is so good. So let me show you. I ended up working on these socks during the movies yesterday. So I had the cuff of this sock and the previous sock I just showed you done with a couple of rounds of stockinette. And then this is the one I chose to work on during the movie. So most of the stockinette is all from the movies. Can you see how it's starting to gradiate in the yellow? Like this is it's so pretty. I am so excited to see what these are going to look like. But I did have some problems with it at first because I thought the color repeats or the color sections were going to be a lot shorter than they were. So when I first wound this up, I was over the moon. I was like, wow, this is so cool. This yarn is so amazing. I'm so excited about this. I can't wait to see what these socks look like. I cast them on and I'm knitting and I'm knitting and I'm doing the cuff and I'm like, wow, that's cool. The cuff is going to be all green. Once I knit all the way through the green, I'll knit all the green in the rib. And then once I'm done with the green, I'll switch over to stockinette for the leg. But then the green kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And I was like, okay, I'm getting close to 20 rounds of ribbing. I'm not really sure I want to go past 20 rounds of ribbing for a cuff because that's going to look weird. I'll have to have like a really long leg to balance that. And then I started looking more at the skein and realizing that the color sequence was not going to repeat in the skein because of how long the color segments were. So let me try to, this took, at that point it was like late at night and I'm like, let me think about it the next day. And then the next day was when I got this all sorted in my head-ish. Still don't know exactly what it's going to do, but essentially there are, I think, 6 sections. I had to like write them down because I couldn't really process it in my head. So there's green. Then there's a whole section that's green and yellow. So what part of it is pretty light. Actually, I guess you can see it on the skein. See right, yeah, how this is like green and yellow applied together. And then it goes into just yellow. So now we're on the third one, right? Green, green, yellow, yellow, and then it goes yellow, gray, 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 green, and then back to green. So that's 6. And in the skein, it doesn't go back through those a second time because at that point you're already like 70% through the skein. And you may be wondering, how did you know that? Well, I started pulling out the yarn and putting it into little piles. Pull, 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 green, 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 green. Pull, 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 yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow, green. Yellow, 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 yellow. There's a lot of yellow. And then yellow, gray, yellow, gray, yellow, gray. And I was putting it into piles on my desk while doing this. I have a picture here. It looked like an absolute nightmare. It was like compulsory. I couldn't stop. I was on a Zoom with Love and Stitches members at that point, and I was like, guys, I'm making a huge mess. But I have to know what happens. I need to be able to plan, and I need to like visually see it because I can't understand it. So at that point I was kind of thinking, do I want to start cutting this yarn? Because the color lengths are so long, do I want to cut the green in half? So I have 2 green cuffs on sock 1 and sock 2, then cut the yellow green in half. So I have yellow green, and like, you know, basically throughout the whole sock. But then I was realizing that was going to be a lot of ends that I don't want to have to deal with. Even though I can knit over them, it's just, it would break, you know, it causes a break in the sock and the integrity of the sock. And it's just really not necessary. So we started throwing out different ideas. Maybe I can pull one sock from the outside of the skein in, the other sock from the inside of the skein out, which would have been okay, except that I kind of wanted the socks to look somewhat similar, even though I know they're going to be different. I didn't want them to be completely different. Like what it was looking like is that one sock was going to be all green and yellow, and the other sock was going to be all gray and green, I think at the time. I don't know. I can't really remember, even though it was yesterday. But what I ended up figuring out is that I could at least get both socks to start with green and then kind of gradiate together. So like one sock is still going to start at one end, green, and the other sock is going to start at the other end, green, but come back the other way from the skein. So I ended up rewinding the skein. I had to because I had a huge mess. So I'm now working from the outside, and this sock is still the original one that I started with. And I'm really happy I didn't cut the yarn, because I think if I had cut the yarn, I wouldn't be getting this like really delicious looking, even though my thing wants to focus and blur stuff. Here we go. Just like really cool looking gradient into the yellow. If I had cut the yarn, I don't think I would get the subtleties that I'm getting here. So I'm really happy that I didn't do that. So this sock, it's looking like it's going to be green, obviously, green and yellow, then yellow. There's a lot of yellow on here. So I'm thinking the yellow will be the beginning of the leg and the heel, maybe a little bit of the foot. We'll just have to wait and see. And then it's going to go into gray, and then gray, green. I don't know at what point I will be done with this sock. What I'm planning to do for the second sock is start it from the center. So basically when I rewound this, I actually ended up cutting off part of the skein, which I rewound into a ball. This is probably, I don't really know actually. This is not a, how many yards are on here? Let's see. It's 350 yards. So I don't know if it was a 100-gram skein or not. It might have just been 350 yards. I don't know. It should be plenty for two socks, or for a pair of socks. But what I'm going to do is start the other one from the center with the green. And this one is going to go green, gray, green, gray, and then hopefully meet it here. I don't really know. It's still a little bit of a mystery, but I feel better about it knowing that I can start both socks with green yarn and they will be sort of matching. So stay tuned to see if I have a ridiculous breakdown as to how this is going to turn out. If anyone remembers a few years ago, oh, actually more than a few years ago, I was living in Texas still, when I was trying to figure out this self-striping yarn that was Halloween colors. It was like orange, black, and lime green. And I couldn't figure out the striping sequence because it was, one, I should have done the thing where I pulled all the yarn out like I did with this. I think that would have made me feel better. But it was like, how did it go again? It was like green, orange, black, thick stripes, green, orange, black, medium stripes, green, orange, black, skinny stripes. And then it repeated again, but it was like 7 inches before it repeated. So it was very confusing to me. And I think I learned that the skein actually told you what it did after the fact. Anyway, I have a hard time when I can't find the pattern and things. So I think just going through that and understanding what the pattern was, and then making a choice myself to just let the pattern be what the pattern is going to be, I think will make me okay with these socks, but stay tuned to see how they come out. Last project here, this is a fun one. So I actually just did this last night and finished it up during lunch today. I still need to weave in the ends, but it was something that it was like I just had to make it like right away. And it's a very small thing. So last night, Kent and I went to the movies, and then afterwards we were like, let's go to Target, and we need a couple things, and let's just look around, look for some Christmas decorations for the van. We were really looking for those jelly window clings because they're perfect for the van. We have cabinets that go all the way around the top with glass fronts. So we did it for Halloween. We put Halloween clings all the way around on our cabinets, which was very cute. We got to enjoy it. It didn't take up any space. And then at the end, we spent like $8 on it. And so we were hoping to do that for Christmas, but we didn't see any gel clings. They're like all gone. We already purchased some, but we wanted to get more. So then we made our way back to the actual Christmas section, which, wow, people have already bought so much Christmas stuff already. I guess it's almost the end of November, so it kind of makes sense. But we were looking for something else to put in the van. We wanted to have maybe a small Christmas tree, artificial, something that was lightweight and easy that we could maybe set on our countertop. Maybe we can put like a little string around it to kind of hold it into place, easy to move, just something to be festive because we're going to be traveling through most of the month of December and we wanted something cute that we could have. So it turned into a whole right mess. This is what I ended up getting. This is a pink Christmas tree. I guess it's kind of like magenta, like it's very purpley pink, but they had tons of these trees in different colors. At first, they didn't have any green ones, or we would have just gotten a green one. So we settled on a black tree. And then they had all these like little lights and little ornaments you could buy and small tree toppers. It was so, so cute. So we were doing this and like we were getting excited about it. And then I saw this one. It was actually like hidden underneath a larger artificial tree. I wonder if somebody was trying to hide it and come back and get it. So sorry, I found it and I bought it. It was the only pink one. So I got it. But after we saw the pink one, Kent was like, okay, done. We're getting a pink tree. You're so excited about it. And I knew that Kent didn't really want a pink tree. I mean, he wouldn't have minded. It's not like he's too macho or whatever to like have a pink tree. It's just for this year. But I was like, I know you don't really want a pink tree. So why don't we just each have our own trees in the van? So we ended up both getting our own tree. So he got the black tree. I got the pink tree. We got our own ornaments, our own stars, everything. And I'm like, I'm just going to make this so, so cute. It's going to be super, super fun. And then that's when the knitting and crochet come into place. And point at you with this. So I thought, why don't I take some leftover yarn and crochet a Christmas tree skirt for my tiny tree? And I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm in line at Target. I'm looking through patterns and I didn't search mini Christmas tree skirt. I just searched like crochet tree skirt. I was looking for free patterns because I really just wanted to understand. This is kind of terrible of me, I guess. I really just wanted to like look through the patterns and kind of understand how do you start a circular tree skirt. That's not knowledge that I have. And then I wanted to just kind of branch off on my own from there. So I say that's terrible because I was kind of looking for free information. I guess that's not terrible if it's already out there for free. So I ended up finding a great free Christmas tree skirt pattern, which I based mine off of. I used a lot of the information in there, so I will say I'm going to tag my project under this pattern, but I made a lot of modifications, so I'll write them into the description. So the pattern I ended up landing on is the Boho Ho tree skirt by Shelly Can. It is really cute. It is made for a full-size tree. We'll put in a picture here so you can see what it looks like, and it is absolutely adorable. So when I started on it last night, and I was trying to figure out, how to make it smaller, how many stitches do I need to have, how many rows do I need to have, blah, blah, blah. I ended up doing my own kind of finishing, and this is what it ended up looking like. And it's so much cuter once I get it on the tree. So hang on, I'll show you in just a second. I did use the puff stitches from the pattern and I have quite a few ends to weave in. So I wanted it to go fast, but I only have fingering weight scraps. So I was looking through all my fingering weight scraps. I wanted something pink, but not too pink because I didn't think that like a bunch of different shades of pink were gonna look good with this tree. So I landed on this yarn, which is I think I can't tell if it's silver or gold. Maybe it is silver stellina. I believe it is Suburban Stitcher, one of her birthday yarns from a couple of years ago. But I didn't think I had enough to hold it double. So I'm like, let me get another color in here that is similar, that's not gonna take attention away from this color, but we'll just kind of like vibe with it. And that's when I landed on this color. So kind of similar. I mean, it's a different yarn base, kind of different tones. Has pink in it, has speckles. Basically, you know, they just went together really, really well without stealing any attention away from this one. So the two of them used together, you know, it's like a little bit more of a soft pink, but it still has like the glitteriness to it. And I think it turned out really cute. So let me show you what it looks like here on this tree. At first I was thinking I wanted a tree skirt that kind of went out past the base, like a typical tree skirt. But once we decided where these are gonna go in the van, which is kind of, instead of being on the counter where they could fall over and everything, they're going to be sort of behind a seat on a ledge. So you're really not gonna be able to see this. It's more gonna be kind of for me, knowing that it's there, but it didn't need to be something that extended past it because the ledge is gonna hold this in. So I went for, you can see it splits like that, just like a real tree skirt. I went for something that's more just going to go around it and just come over the base like so. And it looks like this, which is super, super cute. I think I'm really happy with it. Definitely you could take the notes that I did and just keep going out and make something that's going to go extend past the base here. But I think all in all, it turned out really, really cute. I just need to weave in all those ends. Aside from taking down the stitch count to make it you know, smaller. I pretty much followed the pattern for the first 3 rounds. I didn't change colors. The original pattern changes colors. I did work this puff stitch round just pretty much like it was in the pattern, except I never cut my yarn to go back and work the front again. I need to get all the notes written in so I don't forget exactly what I did. But after I did the puff stitch round, I just did one more round of double crochets, and then I decided to do a crab stitch here on the edge to really just finish it off and make it, like when I first put it on there, it just didn't look finished. So I feel like that gives it a finished edge and makes it look really, really good. So very pleased with my little mini tree skirt, and getting it done in like one night and one lunch was really, really fun. I just didn't have, I guess I just didn't take the time to weave in the ends before today. But I want to get that finished. I want to take some pictures of it, put it on my project page, and this little cute tree I think will be a big part of making it feel very festive in our van. We are going to move right along to questions. We have a couple of questions, turn back around, a couple of questions about knitting and crochet, a couple of questions about van life. So I'm going to mix them up throughout this segment. The first question is from Little Mama Knits. Hey Natalie, I have a question about wet blocking. Is there a good way, or is there a way to block a garment in a way that will lengthen it, but not widen it? I'm an extremely loose knitter, and it's so frustrating to feel like I knit a good gauge, and then I wet block a sweater and it feels way too big. Would steam blocking be helpful? Thank you for helping us all improve as makers. Love this question. This is such a good one, and I really feel your sentiment as like, I'm always improving as a maker. I'm always learning new things, and sometimes having things happen like that where your garment stretches out a lot is a learning opportunity. But yeah, you don't want that to happen again. So my first question for you is, are you blocking your swatches? When you do a gauge swatch, I'm learning this more and more and more, you need to do like a big gauge swatch, like 6 inches by 6 inches. Measure it while it's dry, or measure it before blocking. See what your stitch and row gauge are, especially if length is a problem for you. Then block it, wet block it, let it dry, and then remeasure your stitch and row gauge and compare the two, because that's going to tell you when you're knitting, you need to, like, if your row gauges are pretty much the same before blocking and after blocking, then you can pretty much just go, okay, when I measure 15 inches for the body, it's going to be 15 inches once it's blocked. But if you have a swatch and it grows an entire inch, then you'll know, hey, when I have this much knitting, let's say, or actually, let me reverse that. If your swatch grows by so many rows, then you'll know, like, okay, if I knit 10 rows and it's measuring 1 inch or whatever, I'm not giving you good numbers here, but just go with me. If I knit 10 rows and it's measuring 1 inch pre-blocking, but I know that 10 rows actually measures 1.5 inches post-blocking, then I can anticipate that. And I can go, to make 15 inches, I need X number of rows. Even if it's only measuring like 12 inches here, I know it's going to grow to 15, and it can help you anticipate those things that do naturally happen with knitted fabric. My other question for you is what fibers you're using. There's certain fibers, or like combinations of fibers, that definitely stretch more than others, like superwash merino stretches a lot more than maybe a fiber that doesn't have any superwash or doesn't have any nylon. So just, I'm not saying don't use those things, but just be extra cautious when using those for garments. Yeah, my biggest tip for you is just to make sure you're blocking that gauge swatch. And then when you're blocking your overall item, that's where you can control the shape a little bit. So as you're laying it out, when you're like, you don't always need to pin garments. Most garments, I would say, you probably don't, unless they have some kind of pattern that needs to be opened up, but you can control that on the blocking mat. So as you're laying it out, make sure you're not pulling it down to stretch it. Make sure you're not pulling it down as you lay it out. Like, ease it out maybe a little more widthwise than you are lengthwise, and then it's going to dry about that way. So hopefully some of those tips will help you with your next thing. I will say that I have learned that blocking my garments in the middle of making them has been helping me make informed decisions about things like body length and sleeve length, and it makes it so much easier to go, I'm within a couple of inches of this, of going onto the ribbing for the body. Let me put it on tubing, let me block it, let me see how it's actually fitting. And it's so much easier to make a decision to, like, if I block it and it's coming out too long, I haven't finished it, I haven't bound it off, I haven't done the ribbing. It's so much easier to take back an inch or add another inch when you're not completely done than it is to make those big decisions once you've already finished the whole garment. So doing things along the way is something that's helped me, like, save a lot of heartache with fit on garments too. Okay, next question is from Madison. When you mentioned your sleep schedule being different than it normally is, it made me wonder if you guys feel the effect of driving through time zone changes. Do they not really bother you since you're driving through them slowly as compared to someone flying from one coast to the other? Or do you notice your internal clock being off? How long did it take you to adjust off of New York's Eastern time when you went west? Interesting question. So far in our travels, we've made pretty slow transitions through time changes. So if you are not familiar with the US time zones, either because you're not in the US or maybe you have pretty much lived in one time zone your whole life, there are four time zones in the continental US, from California, which is Pacific time, to New York City, which is Eastern time. There's also Alaska and Hawaii, which have different time zones. So not discounting Alaska and Hawaii, but I have not been there yet. So most of the time zones we're traveling across are within the continental United States. So the difference between those is 3 hours. So let's use right now. It is 5:12 right now. I'm actually in Central Time right now in Tennessee. So in New York, it's an hour later, it's 6:12. In Colorado and Denver, it's Mountain Time right now, it's 4:12. And in California right now, it's 3:12 in the afternoon. So a vast, pretty big difference across the United States. And for the most part, we've been traveling into a new time zone staying there for a couple of weeks, and then traveling to a new one. I don't know why I'm out of breath right now. It feels like I'm in high elevation, and I'm probably, I think we're below sea level here. Maybe even at sea level. Anyway, let me continue. So yeah, we've been mostly traveling through them pretty slowly. I think I always feel even an hour time difference. Let me think. It's easier. Which way is easier? I think it's easier going west because you are getting you're getting an hour back in a way, because when you wake up in the morning, once you've traveled west, you get to kind of sleep an extra hour in for every hour you go. I always find it harder to go from west back to east because let's say you're in California, you're used to waking up at 8 a.m. and then all of a sudden you're in New York. Waking up at 8 a.m. Pacific time is really 11 a.m. in New York. So it's a big difference for sure. But I don't know if I really find it like super hard, the time changes as we're traveling. It's more like the schedule changes that are difficult because we're always doing something different. And sometimes we're working a lot of days in a row. And sometimes there's more just like travel to do. My schedule's mostly changed because we're driving a lot more and driving at night. So I'm actually staying up later and I'm sleeping in later. So when we're in California, it's a little bit harder for me because all of my membership and my video schedule and posts and all of that stuff is still in Eastern time. So when I'm in Pacific time in California or wherever, I feel like I wake up and I'm already behind because at 7 a.m. in California, I've already got a YouTube video that needs to be posted at 10 and emails to send and all of this stuff. So I can't really complain. It's really not that bad. But yeah, I definitely do feel it. It didn't take us long to adjust to New York time. Honestly, even when we went from Colorado, which is on Mountain Time, and we drove in like 3 days to New York, which is Eastern Time, it wasn't really that hard to adjust to. I think when there's something going on and there's something you're excited about and you're busy and you're doing it, it's not a super hard adjustment. Definitely for me, much harder to adjust to the daylight savings time change than it was to time zone time changes. Like this daylight saving, like it is pitch black dark outside right now. It is 5:12, 5:15 now actually. And that has been super hard. I've been feeling like I need a lot of extra sleep and a lot of extra rest. And I'm just going with that humans are mammals, right? And it's time to hibernate this time of year and extra rest is totally fine. All right, next question is from Lindsay. You mentioned magic knot balls once. I started creating one with fingering weight superwash scraps from a blanket I'm knitting, and it's getting pretty big. What can I do with this? I'm worried that the magic knot isn't secure enough for something that sees a lot of use like a blanket or a hat. I've considered holding it together with another yarn to add more structure, but I'm second guessing myself. What have you used yours for in the past? Okay, I have to admit something. I have not used my magic knot ball yet. I have some ideas for it, but I haven't put them into play yet. And for anyone who's like, wait, what's a magic knot ball? I didn't bring mine down here, but essentially it's like you have small leftovers like these scraps, and you take them and you tie them together in a specific knot called the magic knot. There are tutorials on YouTube. And then you just keep winding one big ball. You can do this with leftovers. I've also seen people do it with advents. So they'll take those 20-gram minis and they'll tie them together at the end and they'll make one big ball or one big cake. And then that way, when whatever they're making, a blanket, a sweater, they can just carry on knitting or carry on crocheting without having to stop and add in another ball and have all these extra ends. Now, I've heard different things about the magic knot staying. I think it depends a lot on like how tight you're tying yours, how short you're cutting your ends, and then probably even what fibers or plies you have in your yarn. There is another way to join that I've learned of more recently. It is called, what is it called? I don't remember what it's called actually. I think there's multiple names for it with varying degrees of like PC-ness, but essentially you take, let me see. I learned this from Dawn Barker, who does a lot of scrappy projects. Oh man, looks like I broke my my computer case, whatever. Anyway, okay, so essentially you take your two ends. This is going to be terrible to show because I don't have two contrasting colors here, but you take them and you like interlock them. So this one and its tail goes over here. This one and its tail goes over here. See how they're interlocked like that? And then you take a tapestry needle and you take this end and you split the yarn and you weave it in like all the way like this. And then you do the same on this side. You take this end and you have a sharp, pointy tapestry needle and you feed it into this. And then basically the yarns are like locked together like that. That might be a much better way to secure things. I just thought of that as I was answering your question. I didn't think about that when I was making my notes, but that might be a better way to do it. But I like your idea of holding the yarn, the magic knot ball yarn with another yarn. I think that's going to provide more structure, at least a structural backup, because it's not going to be pulling on just that one yarn. You're going to have something else there. And there's a specific project that I will link down below. We'll put a picture up too. It's called the Cozy Comfort Throw. It is by Molly of A Homespun House. And it is a really simple blanket, also a great Advent project where you hold fingering weight and fingering weight together. You can do fingering weight and Surrey or something nice and soft. When I was just visiting Brianna of the Little Wolf Knits, she had one of these Cozy Comfort Throws with a fingering weight Advent and mohair, and it was like the most soft and delicious blanket. I want to make one now really, really bad. I already did, but now I want to make one even more. So I think that would be a good one because it would have that extra structure. So even if something did happen to those magic knots, it's not like the whole blanket is going to come apart, but maybe explore trying that other method of joining for the rest of it. I feel like that one has to be a little bit stronger because even like when you're knitting over, it depends on what you're making, because I think if you're making something single-stranded and you're going to like really see that join, but think about, let's see, when these are interlocked like this, like that's not coming undone, right? Those two. And then also as you're knitting, the tail and the yarn become one strand. So it's kind of like you're knitting over your end as you go. I think that's probably a better method, and I might start exploring that soon, maybe when I make something. But I do have some ideas for my magic knot ball to be determined later on. All right, next up is a question from, my service isn't great back here, Virginia. How does Toaster do when you leave him alone in hotel rooms? I wondered specifically when you said you checked in, chilled for 30 minutes, and then left. Has anyone ever complained about barking or howling when you're gone for long periods of time? He's such a beautiful, sweet dog. I'd hate for him to be scared or lonely. Let me tell you, I worry about that all the time with Toaster because I just want him to be happy. And we are always trying to do what's best for Toaster. So recently when we were in Ohio, we decided to get a hotel room rather than stay in our van because we were spending lots of time at sporting events. We went to a hockey game, we went to a football game. We were going to be away from him for long periods of time, and it was also supposed to be cold outside. And even though we can turn on the heat in the van or turn on the air conditioning in the van, and we have a temperature monitor, we actually don't have a way to control the AC and heating from a distance. We only have a way to monitor it from a distance. So whenever it's really hot or really cold and we're not going to be within, a couple of minutes of walking to him, we really don't feel comfortable leaving him in the van. So we decided to get a hotel because we knew he would be safer in the hotel, and he likes it so much more. He loves staying in a hotel. He loves getting to lay out on the bed and all of that stuff. Whenever you stay with a dog in a hotel, there's usually an extra fee. It depends on the hotel chain. But I think the most recent one we stayed at was a Marriott, and it was like a one-time like $100 fee. And that's so, I think it's more for like liability and extra cleaning and things like that. But most of the time, actually, I guess I don't know why I'm saying most, we don't make an extra mess with Toaster. Fingers crossed, nothing's happened. If it did, we would clean it up. So it's really, for us, we feel like a good thing for him. Whenever we've had, whenever we stayed in a hotel with Toaster, like, I think like we've stayed in hotels with him quite a bit. I can only think of one time where they put us in a room near an elevator. That is when problems happen with barking. Almost, I think every other time they've put us in a room like as far away from the elevator as possible. I think they do that on purpose, which is very smart. So if you're ever traveling with your dog, maybe request a room far away from the elevator if you think they're going to bark. So Toaster doesn't whine when we leave. He doesn't bark for us, but he does bark if like people are going by the room. That's why it's nice to have a room far away from the elevator, because there's a lot more traffic going on by the elevator. We also were offered to be on the first floor at this hotel, so it would be easy for us to take Toaster in and out, but we decided it would be better for us to be on a higher floor, where again, there'd be less foot traffic than on the main floor. We've never gotten a complaint about him barking. We always put up the do not disturb sign, or in this hotel, they actually gave us a little placard that said pet inside, and we put that on the door so that nobody's going in there while we're away. Sometimes we've blocked off the, like the entryway to the doorway. So in case he does bark, he's not like right at the door, he's further back into the room. So hopefully he's not making too much noise. And then of course, while we're there with him, we keep him quiet if he starts to bark. But he's a really good boy, so he really doesn't do that often. And as far as his own mental health, I think he loves staying in a hotel room more than being in the van, because he gets to be very comfortable and cozy, and I'm pretty sure he sleeps most of the time. All right, this is the last one, I believe, from La La Lee Lou. I'm wondering if Kent has any interest in learning to knit or crochet. Has he tried? My husband is contemplating joining the Yarny world, and I'm not sure whether to start him with knit or crochet, as far as easiest to learn. What is your opinion? Okay, interesting question. So Kent has not really expressed any interest in learning to knit or crochet. Actually, he's kind of said that he doesn't want to do it. He knows so much about yarn and the Yarny world. Even before he was involved in working with me, he was just a good listener. Like he would find us yarn stores and he would show interest in what I'm working on. Like he may not understand it as much as a knitter, but he knew enough to like play along with it, right? Like if I'm excited about a new project I'm casting on or some kind of yarn, he would listen, and I would do the same for him for his hobbies. So like video games and sports and all of that. I think we're pretty well matched in that we have enough interest in each other's hobbies, but like there's still our own hobbies. And I think for that reason is why he doesn't want to get involved in actually knitting or crochet. And I just don't think he has the interest, and that is fine with me. I like that it's my thing. I like that he knows enough to be involved in it and not be like totally bored if we're in a yarn store, but it's still mine, if that makes sense. Now, that being said, I think it's really cool that your husband also wants to get involved in knitting and crochet. I just met somebody when I was at Bliss Yarns that both him and his wife knit. Both him and his wife knit, and that's something that they can share together. But I think they also do it on like separately, because it was just him there at the knit night, which I think is very, very cool. If Kent had interest in knitting crochet, I wouldn't like stop him, but it is kind of nice to have my own thing. But that's just me, like personally. I think it's very cool. So as far as what's easier to learn, knit or crochet, I think it's kind of different for everybody. I would keep in mind like what is your biggest interest? Is it knit or crochet? Because what I feel like I've heard from most people is they think that whatever they've learned first is the easiest one. So if you learn to knit first, I feel like that's the easiest one for you to learn. If you learn to crochet first, that's the easiest one for you. I don't think either one is particularly actually easier, like skill level wise, than the other. I learned to knit first. I learned to knit throwing with my right hand. So I found crochet extremely difficult because I had to learn to tension with the opposite hand from when I was knitting. So that was very hard for me. I've heard that people who learn to crochet have could have a very hard time knitting, just depending on what you do. I also found crochet hard to learn because with knitting, you already have all your stitches on the needle. You don't have to find them. And like with crochet, it's like you have to find your stitches. You have to count your stitches. You have to pay attention to the ends. But that's, I think, my like bias of having learned to knit first, if that makes sense. So think about what you like to do. Maybe you want to start him on the thing that's your favorite so that you can enjoy that together. But also just be flexible, because the other thing I hear from people when they're learning is that they try knit or crochet, whatever it is, and it's just not clicking for them. And then they try the other one and it clicks. So be flexible with what he wants to learn. Maybe you present both, or maybe you find something that he wants to make. Like if he finds like, oh, I really want to make this hat and it's knit, or I really want to make this hat and it's crochet, start with that thing, you know, maybe not specifically that pattern, but just practicing stitches. And then that always motivates me to learn something new when there's a goal in mind. And then just be flexible and open with it. It sounds like you know how to do both, so you'll be ready for him when he's ready to learn the next one, and he can learn both of them. Well, I feel like there's one more thing I was going to say. Oh yeah, if you are a continental knitter and right-handed, I feel like those go well together, because then you can tension at least with the same hand if you're a right-handed knitter. There's so many ways to knit and crochet. Just, I think that the continuity between continental knitting and crochet, they're more aligned than English style knitting and crocheting. But again, everyone is different. So take that with a grain of salt, and good luck to your husband learning to knit and crochet. All right, if you have any questions for me, be sure to put them down below, but please put #question in the front so that I can look out for them and answer them in the next episode. Remember last week when I skipped the news section entirely? We went from one parking spot to like a whole nother place, even though there was only maybe 30 minutes in between that transition. Actually, is that true? Maybe we went to lunch. I can't remember. It was a crazy day, and I sat down to start recording the podcast again. I went, okay, I need to do news, I need to do life, and then I turned the camera on and just totally skipped the news section. So we're not doing that this week, because I've got lots to share, a few reminders, some new things, and some yarn to show you. Oh, actually, now I remember the yarn. One of the yarns that I need is in the other room. Hang on. Got the yarn. Okay, let's start with the newest video. So this week on Tuesday, well, in YouTube. We actually went last week, but we traveled to Two Roots Alpacas in Greenville, Tennessee, and we got to tour not only the alpaca farm and meet like 50 alpacas, but we got to get a tour of the fiber mill. If you have never seen how yarn is made, it is a fascinating process. There is so much work that goes into it. I mean, I knew that, but I didn't know how much of it was hands-on and how much of it was actually like just done by the people who run these mini mills. I don't know how it is in mass production. I'm sure it's very different, but in the the smaller mills here in the US that there are maybe a few people, a handful of people working on, it's incredible everything that they do, everything that their hands are on, that they are doing to make this yarn. I think there were 12 different machines that they went through, 12 different stages. It was just absolutely fascinating. So if you have been curious about how yarn is made, or you just want to see some alpacas, I think I'm spinning around too fast. I think you're really going to like that video. We had such a great time there with Ruth Ann and Brad, her husband, and all of the alpacas, and Toaster had a good time. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the life segment, but I think the video shows it off pretty well. Next week is going to be our last Tuesday video of the year, because after that, it's the last week of November next week. After that, we're going into daily videos with Vlogmas. I'll still have the podcast going on in December, Probably not every single week in December, but most of the weeks in December, I'll have a podcast on Thursday, but instead of doing Tuesday videos and Vlogmas, I'm gonna just have Vlogmas. And then in January, we'll hit the ground running again with yarn store tours and all kinds of things. So the last Tuesday video of the year is going to be my Advent video. I have been researching the last week new Advent patterns that have been popping up either on my Instagram feed, or maybe they came out like in January or February of this year because they were part of a kit that people got in their Advent kit. It was exclusive to them, and then the designer released the pattern after the fact. Or maybe there's some patterns that are like, maybe they weren't made for Advents, but I've made them, or I think that they're going to be like really, really good for Advent. So I've got 10 patterns for you in that video that are new that I'm adding to my bundle. So I have this bundle that I made on Ravelry last year. It is a ton of different projects with knit and crochet that are good for Advent making, which means they're also good for scrappy making. You don't have to have an Advent or even like a 24 skein mini set. You could have different mini sets or row one minis or whatever you have. And I try to write in there how much you're going to need of each thing so that you can easily see what patterns will work for you and what patterns will not be working for you. So I'll try to remember, actually, let me make sure to add this in there. Advent pattern bundle, and I'll add that down below. But that's coming next week. I'm also going to share my plans for Advent in that video, as well as all of the Advents that I'm getting, because I do have a lot. And I'll be showing them in Vlogmas, but I probably won't go into as much detail as I'm going to in this video. In other news, the Love and Stitches membership is opening on Tuesday, December 5th. Make sure you check out the info page, add your name to the wait list so that you get an email so that you can sign up when that is open. I'm very excited about some of the things that we're going to have going on in the membership for our next quarter. Our current members, if you are a current member, you can renew your membership right now through December 3rd. And then that's a Sunday, so you have until December 3rd as a current member to renew. And then on December 4th, everything is like paused. We get everything cleaned up and ready for our new members. And then the membership opens on December 5th. This will be the only time the membership will be open until April of next year. So if you want to join us, make sure to sign up in December. On December 5th, we have a limited number of spots, only 100 people that we add in each term, because now we're doing like 4-month terms. So there won't be an opportunity to join again until April. Some of the things that we have going on, I've just updated the webpage so you can check that out, but we are going to do, let's see, our make-alongs. We're going to be doing minis, making with minis in December. So great for any advents or anything like that. We're going to be doing doodles in January. If you have seen the doodles, which are color work, so we'll be doing doodles for knitting, and then any color work and crochet. Then in February, we're planning to do assigned pooling in both knit and crochet. And then in March, we're going to actually just focus on crochet. We have a lot of knitters in the membership. We're getting more and more crocheters every time, and more people who both knit and crochet, but then we have some people who don't crochet, and crocheters I feel like are always kind of getting that, like, I don't know, it seems to still be, at least in my world, it's like a knit focused world. So we did a crochet make along 2 years ago, so not in 2023 but in 2022, and it was really successful in getting a lot of our members to learn to crochet, and now they are like crocheters and knitters, which is super cool. So trying to spread the love of crochet by doing a crochet make along for March. So fingers crossed we can make some new crocheters out of it. Also, we're going to be doing 2 exclusive yarns, one in December and one in February, that are only available for members. The first is going to be a festive holiday skein from Pretty Twisted Yarns, and then in the early new year, and then we'll work on it in February, we're going to be doing an assigned pooling yarn from Barker Wool, and only members will have access to those things. So again, all the information is on the webpage. You can take a look at it, see if it's something that sounds interesting to you, and then sign up for the email list so that you will get a notification when the membership opens on December 5th. As far as shows that are coming up, I know that Yarny Gras in New Orleans has signups open. It's actually a free to attend marketplace. There are a couple classes there. It's in New Orleans, Louisiana, and we're going to be there. I'm really excited to go. It's an Indie Untangled event. So we went to Indie Untangled, which is adjacent to Rhinebeck in New York. And then this will be our first time going to Yarny Gras in New Orleans. So very excited for that. Vlogmas is coming up. I already said that. So there you go. Vlogmas is starting on December 1st. I'm doing this out of order, Kent, what I have on here, sorry, because I've got 2 yarns to show you. The first is our World Champs colorway, which Kent and Brianna of the Little Wolf Knits dyed this yarn, and I wanted to show you what it looks like wound up. I wanted to start knitting on it, but I haven't just yet. I think I'm going to make Kent his first pair of knitted socks, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like because I feel like in the cake, you get a little bit of a better idea of what it's going to look like knit up than in the skein. So this colorway is available for pre-order, and it is only going to be open through November 30th. So if you like this color, if you're a Texas Rangers fan, or if maybe this color works for something else in your life or you just like it, you can pre-order it through November 30th on the Little Wolf Knits website. And I have it linked down below. The other yarn I want to show you, I have been talking about for 2 weeks, but I just got back to Nashville so I can actually show it to you. Let me set my computer down. This is the Ruby and Roses Christmas collection. I think it's called the Christmas collection. Maybe it's the holiday collection, but it is wintry colors, festive holiday colors, and it's not out yet. It's available for pre-order, and then it is going to ship in December so that you can work on it like during the holidays. So what's the date? Hold on, I have the date down here. I think it's only available to order through November 26th. So you gotta hop on this one fast if you haven't already. And I have an affiliate link with Ruby and Roses, which means at no additional cost to you, using my link helps support me while you're also supporting Addie and Devin of Ruby and Roses. So I'll have my link down below. And if you're a first-time customer of Ruby and Roses, it also gives you $5 off. Okay, let's look at the yarn that Addie has sent to me. These are not the only colors in the collection. I think there's like 10 colors and all this beautiful photo inspiration. You have to go follow Addie Ruby and Roses on Instagram to see all of those. So let me pull them all out of the package. Let's see. What is that? I don't even know what that is. I didn't know if the pictures were, oh my God. Her yarn smells so good. Okay, wrinkly package set aside, and let's look at these different colors. All right, this one, I think she sent me all of these on, yes, on the gold Stellina base. So this is her rose gold base. It is 80% superwash merino, 15%, I think, nylon. I can't read that backwards, and 5% gold Stellina. Let me double check that. Yes, 80, 15, and 5. 437 yards, and it is super, super soft. This color here is called Mistletoe Mixer. Isn't that beautiful? There are some really fun colors that play well together. Also, she has a lot of really great solid yarns if you want to like pair things together. Kind of like feeling, I'm not going to do this because I have so many projects going on, but I've been feeling the itch to do brioche lately, and I feel like this would be so pretty. She's got a color that's super hot pink that I think would pick up, I think it's called Material Girl. They would pick up on that. That could be so fun to use together. So that one is so pretty. Now, this one I really like. Okay, so Addie and I were together in New York after Rhinebeck, and she was showing me the photo inspo and the pictures of the colorways for this collection before it was released, and she was like so excited about it and so excited about the the photos to the yarn. So you have to go look at the photos to the yarn on her Instagram page and on her site. But this one really drew my attention, and I was surprised because I'm not normally a red person. In fact, I would probably say red is one of my least favorite colors. This is changing my mind. Look at this one. Oh, it's so pretty. This one is called Window Shopping. So if you look at the picture for window shopping, you'll see the inspiration and why all of these beautiful, fun colors are in there. This one's also on rose gold, the gold stellina base. Love this one. What to do? I want to keep all of these. So many times I'm getting more yarn than I can possibly knit and crochet and output, but I don't want to let these little yarn babies go. They're so pretty, but I know I can't take them all with me. I have so many advents coming. Okay, one more skein and then something I'm really excited about. Obviously excited about all of these, but okay, this one is called Sub-Zero Sundown. Imagine an icy, wintry, purpley sunset. So pretty. I'm telling you, her colors have so much depth to them. They're amazing. I'm actually thinking that, I wonder what these two would be like used in a project together. That could be pretty. I almost feel like I like I don't know. They could all play together pretty well, I think. So many pretty things. No idea what I'm gonna do yet. Probably a pair of festive socks for myself so that I have something easy going on while working on advents. I'm gonna not overload myself with advents this year. Mark my words. We'll do our best. Okay, last thing here that was in my package from Addie. Thank you, Addie, by the way, for sending me these. Is one of these mini skein sets. She has these mini skein sets all of the time with all different yarns. When we were there visiting in, gosh, I guess it was August, she had mini skein sets based off of her summer collection. And this one is called Festive Cheer, based off of this winter collection. So this is on her soft rose base, and she calls them rosebuds, which is so cute. It is 85% superwash merino and 25% nylon, and these are 10-gram minis. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you have to keep an eye on them because some of them have 12, some of them have, I think, 10. So just keep an eye on like which ones. But all of them are plenty to do some really, really fun stuff with. And I love the idea of these mini skein bundles because they're all tonals that I know will work together. So whether you're going to do maybe a pair of socks and you work all of these together, or you're going to do like a beautiful stripy cowl, or use them in some kind of color work or doodles. They're super, super fun, and I love having mini skeins. Or maybe you're like a blanket person like me and you want to collect mini skeins, make like squares or other shapes into blankets, or knit that Sweet Shop blanket has been on my mind. Ooh, have I added that one to my advent yet? I don't know if I have. I've got so many patterns to go through. There's so many good things for minis and for advents and for things like this. So loving this a lot. So again, all of these colorways are available now as a pre-order, but you have to order by November 26th, and I'll have my affiliate link down below, and you can save $5 as a new customer. So thank you, Addie, for all of these. I love them and adore them and can't wait to make with them. I don't even know if I want to say this yet because I need to make sure I can have this idea come to life. But as I was I'm just going to say it, you know I am. As I was putting together pattern ideas for my Advent video, I started finding other pattern ideas for Advent leftovers. What do I mean by that? Patterns that can use a handful up to 24 skeins of like 2 to 5 gram leftovers. I feel like I'm not alone when I'm working an advent pattern. It doesn't use up all of the 20 grams that are in that advent. And so then then you're left with like tons of little advent mini balls. And you're like, what do I do with these? Because these ones all go together, so they may not necessarily work in my other scrappy projects, and I'd like to use them together again. And what do I do? So I think I was kind of inspired by making a Musselburgh hat that was striped on one side and thought, you know, that's a really good way to use up advent leftovers. I wonder if there are other projects like this. And then I started finding socks, and I don't know, there's just so many things. So I'm starting to put together for myself a collection of patterns that are good for leftovers, which would also include like good for smaller mini skein bundles, like 10-gram bundles. And so potentially, don't hold me to it, but hopefully in the new year, I will have some ideas for what to do with your advent now that you've used your advent and you still have more left over. My brain, I was intending to take a day off this week when we got back from East Tennessee, and my brain couldn't stop spinning around advent ideas, so I spent the whole day pretty much browsing Ravelry instead. Last Monday, we were in Kentucky, making our way to East Tennessee, and then eventually here to Nashville, which is where I am today. So picking up where I left off last week, we drove Tuesday morning. We got up really early. Did we get up really early? Yeah, I guess we got up like pretty early in the morning and drove about 2 hours to Greenville, Tennessee, where Two Roots Alpacas is. Our plan was to film most of the afternoon, and then depending on what time we were done, we were going to drive back to Nashville, which is about a 4-hour drive. Tennessee is a very long state. Nashville's right in the middle. And so from where we were in East Tennessee, we had, I think about 3.5, 4 hours to drive and gain 1 hour because the time changes. But we ended up having such a great time that we did not leave that night, and we stayed there that night. So Two Roots Alpacas, you may have seen our video already from Tuesday, but they are an alpaca farm and also a fiber mill, and then they have a small storefront. We first got introduced to them when we were on the Great Tennessee Yarn Tour, and we went to 13 shops like in 3 days. It was crazy, super fun, and we spent some time there. We got a tour of like a personal tour of the mill, but we thought, wow, we really want to show everyone what this mill is like, but we just didn't have time to put it in that video because we already had 13 yarn stores, and our goal was to kind of give like each storefront a couple of minutes in the video. And so it didn't really make sense to then like throw in the mill, but we wanted to come back. And so Ruth Ann and Brad invited us to come back like whenever we could make it. And so we just thought, well, it makes sense for us to go when we're on our way back to Tennessee for Thanksgiving, because we'll be sort of in the area. So we went over there, we filmed for about, I would say 5 hours probably. So we were pretty tired, but we got so much footage in. We learned so much about alpacas, tried to include as much as we could in the video. But it was really, really cool. And both of them were super, super sweet. Toaster was such a good sport. He was cooped up in the van during all of that. I mean, he was fine, but he could like kind of see us every time we came outside, and he was starting to go a little stir crazy. So after we were done filming, we let him out and let him off leash, which is not something we normally do, but their house is probably a 1/4 mile from the road. And so we felt pretty safe about it. So I have a video of him running around. The alpacas are on the other side, like in their enclosure, but they're kind of chasing him like, what is this? Who is this? And then they have 2 dogs. And so one of them is a younger dog and was running around with Toaster, which was really fun. After we finished filming, it was about 5:30 or so, and we were like, we're tired. It doesn't make sense to go home tonight. So let's just stay here. And they are actually a harvest host. So Harvest Host is a network of farms and breweries and wineries where you pay a set fee every year. I think it's like $100 for the year to belong, for us, like as people who stay there, to belong to this network of harvest hosts. And then you can like book online on the Harvest Host app and stay at these different places. So if you're ever in East Tennessee and you want to check out the alpaca farm and stay there, they are a harvest host. They have RV hookups, or at least, I'm sorry, they have power. I don't think they have like full hookups like water and all of that, although I'm not sure because we just parked in their like driveway. We didn't even park in the RV spot because it was cold. We didn't need any electricity or anything like that. And so we were all set, just enclosed in our van. But we had already planned to stay there that night. Like we had booked with them, and they were like letting us stay there, which was great. So they invited us inside to hang out for a little bit in their house before they had invited us to dinner earlier in the day. So they were like, why don't you come inside? We can hang out for a little bit and then we'll go off to dinner. So that was great. We had a drink. Toaster got to come inside. He loved that. He laid on the couch. I knit, got to know Ruth Ann a little bit more. And then we hopped in their car. They took us to dinner, which was very, very nice. We had some barbecue, which was great. And then we came back. They went into the house. We went into our van. We said goodnight. And Kent and I got a really good night's sleep. Woke up in the morning, saw the alpaca, said goodbye, and then we headed out back to Nashville. So before we like fully left Greenville, we stopped at a local place called Cotton's. It's a convenience store, but also like they cook there. And Ruth Ann and Brad let us know, like, you should definitely go there. They have great biscuits. And so we did. I had a breakfast sandwich with a biscuit, and Kent had like biscuits and gravy. I'm not a gravy person, which is a bummer because it looked like it was really good. It's just not a flavor that I'm into, but Kent's looked really good. And the girl that was working there was so kind. She said, hey, I made this like apple crisp last night and for yesterday, and we have some left over. I think it would be like really good, like warmed up with like a little bit of milk. It would be like great breakfast. And so we were like, sure, give us that too. So we each had our biscuits, and then we had this apple crisp thing. And I thought it was going to be weird, like warmed up with milk and stuff, because I'm not like super big on like warm milk alone. Like hot chocolate, yes. Oatmeal, yes. And that's kind of how it ended up being, like a little bit oatmeal-y, but also like fruity and desserty. So that was really, really great. So after that, we hit the road. We started driving back to Nashville, but we had one stop on the way at a National Historic Site. I think it was a historic site. It was Andrew Johnson's home. And that ended up being pretty cool. It was like 2 different buildings. We did not do the big tour. There was like a 45-minute tour of his home that we did not do, just in the interest of time. And then there was another smaller building that Kent went into. I was doing some work. I was getting some like footage organized from everything that we took at the alpaca farm and like spending time with Toaster in the van. So I did not do all of it with Kent, but I did go into the main building for the like historic site, kind of more of a museum-like building. And they had in there Andrew Johnson's tailor shop, like a building inside a building. And I took a picture like through the doorway to the tailor shop. And I just thought it was really cool. Something I didn't take a picture of is they had a suit jacket that he had sewn, and like other things. And then it was very cool to me to see like this person who is male and was a former president of the United States was a tailor. I don't know, to me, it was very cool because that meant he was working with fabric and working with his hands. And it just made me think all the people who say like, oh, sewing and knitting and crochet is for grandmas. Like, historically, you are wrong. And I just loved that about it. And I thought that was very cool. So we made it back to Nashville Wednesday around like 6 o'clock. Central Time. We decided we're going to just take a rest, not do any work on Thursday, and kind of rest up. That was the day I ended up getting super into Advents. And then that night I went to Bliss for knit night. They have a knit night from 5 to 7 p.m. on Thursdays. So I went to Bliss, I brought my hat, and really started getting to work on finishing my Musselburgh hat. After Bliss, I went to dinner with Deb, and Kent came and joined us, and that was very, very nice. Friday, nothing exciting happened because we worked. And then on Saturday, I went back to Bliss. So this next picture of my hat, you can see I've made a little more progress and actually started working on the decreases. So on that day, on Saturday, I was like, all right, I'm starting on the decreases. I'm going to finish this hat. And I did. So I started working on the hat in the AM. And then I came back home, grabbed Toaster, and took him over to my brother's house. My brother and his wife have a standard poodle named Harry, and they recently got another standard poodle. Her name is Belle, and I haven't seen her since I think they picked her up Wednesday before we left in August, and I got to see her on like that Saturday. So she was a little puppy, and now she is bigger than Toaster. They were running around in the backyard together for a little bit. Toaster was not super sure about Belle. He's cool with Harry. Toaster's kind of a brat sometimes. Like, he picks and chooses which dog he's going to get along with. And Belle was so cute. She was such a good dog already. My brother and his wife are doing such a good job with her. She was really sweet, and she hasn't had her first like full haircut yet. Like, she's had trims on her face and paws and ears, but she's going for her first like big haircut this week. So right now she looks like those really long, those adorable sheep that have their face is black and they're like, hooves are black, or the hair around their hooves, but then they're white and like kind of like long curlies, like wavy. She looks like that right now. She looks like a sheep, and she is so cute and so adorable. So that was really fun. We were watching the Georgia-Tennessee game together. My brother went to Georgia. I went to Tennessee. Georgia won, whatever. But I was casting on new socks while I was there, and also working on Kent's hat and enjoying seeing Belle. On Sunday, Kent and I went to see the Marvels. Finally, we're usually the type of people who go on release day at like 3 p.m. to see new Marvel movies. So this was the longest we've waited. I thought it was great. I'm not going to say anything about it in case you haven't gotten to see it yet, except that I want to say, please go see it, because Kent was telling me it's doing like, I think, the worst in the box office of any of the Marvel movies. And I have some suspicions that it's because it's all women in the lead, which makes me really sad, because those women are awesome. There was a little bit of cheesiness to the movie. There always is in superhero movies, but I feel like it's just not getting the attention it deserves. And if you haven't watched Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, it's such a good series. Kamala is probably my favorite person in that movie. She is great. She's a young actress, the youngest like person in the movie, and she's so funny. And the series is really, really good. I like the series more than the movie, but I think the movie is great. So go see it because I think it's a great one. After we went to the Marvels is when we went shopping for Christmas decorations, which I did already talk a bit about. So I don't think I need to share that again, but look for my tree fully decked out in Vlogmas. You can see whose tree you like better, mine or Kent's. Oh, I forgot to grab my book that I read. So hang on, let me grab that real quick. This past week, I started and finished this book. It is The Leftover Woman by Jean Kwok, and it was one of my book of the month books from, what month was this? From October. I'm finally catching up on all of my reads. This always happens to me with books. I feel like I have nothing to read, and I put a bunch of stuff on hold at the library, and then it's like gonna be a couple of months before it comes in, and so I'm like, all right, what to read, and then I get my book of the month books, and I'm like, great, I'm so excited to read my book of the month books, and then all of my holds become available, and so I'm like, okay, what now? Now you can actually delay your holds and say like deliver them in 2 weeks or 1 week or whatever, so I'm starting to do that. I'm getting smarter about this, but there was a long time running where like I kept having a book be available, and as soon as I was finished reading and I was gonna go read one of my book of the month books, another one of my holds became available. And since those have a time limit from the library, I was reading those instead. So I'm really happy to be back. I actually wasn't planning to read this book first. I had started another one, I think that I also got in October, because it's a spooky book. It's a thriller. And I had started that one, so I was planning to read that because I really liked it. I read like the first 30 pages, and then one of my books from the library became available. Anyway, I sent Kent to the van. He was going to get something from the van, and I was like, hey, will you grab my book for me? Because I'm about to finish a book. I need another one ready to go. And so he grabbed this one. This was the one that was the most obviously out. And I didn't even realize it until I started reading it that this was not the thriller that I had started reading. It didn't matter though. I was immediately just engrossed in this book. I read it in like 4 nights, which I know it's not a super long book. It is, let's see, 274 pages. But for me, that's actually a really fast pace for reading. I just couldn't stop reading it. It was super, super good. So let me read you the synopsis here for The Leftover Woman. It says, Jasmine Yang arrives in New York City from her rural Chinese village without money or family support, fleeing a controlling husband on a desperate search for the daughter who was taken from her at birth. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but that's the first character that we get introduced to. And this book goes back and forth between 2 characters' point of views. Of course, their lives are intertwined in some way, and you start to realize that throughout the book, and you get like little tidbits throughout. Here's the other person. Meanwhile, publishing executive Rebecca Whitney seems to have it all: a prestigious family name and the wealth that comes with it, a high-powered career, a beautiful home, and a handsome husband. Again, I'm not reading you all of it because I feel like it gives some of it away. I often, or most of the time, I don't read a synopsis before reading the book. I think it's more fun that way, and then I like discover things in a different perspective. But I thought the book was really, really good. It was also based in New York City, which was cool to see a little bit of that. I always love New York stuff. Now that I have lived there for a little bit, I feel like a little bit a part of that city. So it was great. The only complaint I have about it is that I felt like at the end, it got a bit cheesy with the way that things wrapped up. It did have a good ending, like it felt good at the end. But it was a little bit like, I'm not sure that would actually happen. All in all, I would say I would read books by the same author again, and I gave it 5 stars on my Goodreads. So this one was great. I'm going to give this to my mom now to put in her to be read pile, and then after that, I'm going to suggest that she, I think my parents do this pretty often, either donate the book to the library or take it to a little free library. Okay, I've also been watching some TV, mostly with my mom. We've been watching a lot of HGTV. That's kind of like our morning thing, is that if she doesn't have to go into work, we watch some HGTV together, or on the weekends, which is really nice. We've been watching Hometown. Oh, what's the other one? It's all like the couples that like flip houses and stuff. You know, it's good stuff to watch. And then Kent and I have been rewatching season 2 of Upload on Amazon Prime, which is a great show. We went to watch the new season that just came out, season 3, and realized that we don't remember anything from season 2. So we started watching season 2 over again. I think we watched maybe 4 episodes last night. They're 30-minute episodes. If you haven't seen it and you have Amazon Prime, definitely recommend watching that one. For this week's tip, I'm going to circle back to something I shared earlier in the episode, which was that joining method that is not the magic knot. I found a tutorial for you, and I can confirm that it is called one of 2 things, sometimes called the Russian join, also called the invisible join. I believe that was also true, but I'm going to link my favorite tutorial maker, Very Pink Knits, and her video on how to do this join down below. Since we have a very long episode this week, I don't think I need to spend too much time on the tip already, because Kent's going to have a lot of editing here to do. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!